You're watching Leafs Morning Take with host Nick Alberga and former NHLer Jay Rosehill. The show starts now.
All right, the Tankathon is on, presented by Bet365. It's time for the Tuesday edition of Leafs Morning Take. It is Nick Alberga and Dave Pagnotta with you ahead of matchup 4 of 4 with the Florida Panthers this season. This one taking place in Sunrise. What's going on, Dave?
How are you, buddy? Doing okay? Or, I mean, we're here. We're not in the sun. It's what the hell's going on outside?
I know. So I've been told, you've been in my place. I got drapes. You don't see anything inside. I don't see anything outside. So I have no clue. But what I've been told is that it's very, very cold in Toronto. And we always get sort of a peak of spring every year. And that seems to what have happened the last couple weeks. But, man, I'm at a point where just bring me summer here.
Just we get teased by like that week of awesome weather, spring weather, and everyone's dying for a patio, and then we get shit on with this crap that's going on. Hopefully this is the last of it.
Yeah.
But, whatever. Boys are down in Florida, and they're enjoying themselves a little bit more, I think.
Yeah, that's exactly it. As we get closer and closer here to the Stanley Cup playoffs, I should mention as well, our Super Chat charity partner this season is Sick Kids. Want to make sure that your question or comment gets on the show. Hit us up with a Super Chat. Proceeds from our Super Chat will go to Sick Kids, ranked the #1 research-intensive children's hospital in Canada and 3rd in the world. My fascination is the fact that we're 6 games remaining in the regular season slate for the Maple Leafs specifically. We still have no clue who they're playing, and there can be a variety of different scenarios that play out. Whether it's Ottawa, could even be the Florida Panthers, could still even be the Montreal Canadiens. Just shows you, I guess, the parity in this league right now.
It's wild, and to see the way that the Sens have been playing, the Habs have been playing, and Florida kind of utilizing. They don't give a shit who they play in the first round. Like they're going to load manage the crap out of their roster and prepare for playoffs. Make sure guys are as healthy as possible. So why bother, right? Like wait until game 83 and on. That's when it really matters, especially with the amount of hockey they played the last couple of seasons. So, anybody's ball game. Ottawa could jump ahead of them. They could finish up in 3rd and presumably play Tampa, which puts Florida, Toronto in a nice little position for a round 1. So. There's storylines across the board, but I think, even from a Leafs perspective, I don't think you give a crap who you play either.
You shouldn't. Probably not. I think the focus has been on the Battle of Ontario, just because of the enormity of that type of matchup. It's been like 20 years since we've seen that in the Stanley Cup playoffs. But anyway, slice it. You're going to play a red-hot team. And maybe Florida, weirdly enough, is a team you want to play because they're not playing well. Do you read anything into that the last little while here for the Florida Panthers? Losing games left and right. They can't stay healthy. They got guys out of the lineup. There's a lot of uncertainty, it seems, surrounding Matthew Tkachuk as well leading into the playoffs.
Yeah, look, I get it from their side of things. You want to give your guys as much of a rest as possible because, again, you don't care who you end up playing. Based on what we've seen the last few seasons, it doesn't really matter to them. So if it means an extra week of, no action, game action anyway, and just allowing yourself to kind of chill and revamp and recharge and get back to it. I think clearly they seem to be quite comfortable with it. So, the last game against Detroit, they lost, but they felt good about their game, or at least that's what Paul Maurice said. Add some other pieces into the mix, more healthy pieces, and they should be okay once we get to April 19th. But again, we'll see who they end up playing. They just don't care. Like they won the Cup last year. They were in the Stanley Cup final the year before that. They know what it takes. If it means a little bit healthier, so be it. The only thing of certainty we know, presumably, I guess, is that Aaron Ekblad will be back for Game 3 against whoever they play.
Yeah, it's pretty much all the uncertainty. And I think the last little while, specifically watching the Eastern Conference, it just sort of gives you that stern reminder that not every year is given. I sort of think, especially in these parts, we take it for granted. 9 straight seasons, the longest streak now in the NHL, making the Stanley Cup playoffs. It's the Toronto Maple Leafs. And I bring that up because I'm watching the game on Monday night, Tampa and the New York Rangers. What the hell happened to the Rangers where they're a couple wins away from advancing to the Stanley Cup final last year? Now they're not going to make the playoffs, Dave.
Yeah, and everybody pegged them to be a team that was going to compete for a cup this year. I was one of them. I thought they were going to be able to get things going and pull them off. Obviously not. Like they've been dog shit, and it's you see it in the effort, and you see the frustration afterwards. But it's like, okay, guys, you're frustrated. You've been frustrated for 20 games in a row. You think maybe you get your head out of your you know what and start playing here. but it just hasn't happened for the Rangers. There are going to be some changes in the summer. We're going to hear Chris Kreider's name in the trade rumor mill more. He was hurt, but which is why we didn't hear it closer to the deadline. We'll hear him more. We'll hear other players on this team. I'm really now, like, halfway through, I was going, it's personnel. It's more than coaching. I don't know how much long of a leash Peter Laviolette has either on this club. I think the Rangers are going to make some pretty impactful changes this summer, and it's primarily because the owner's A, nuts, and B, just doesn't put up with this kind of shit. So I kind of appreciate it from that perspective. We were crap. Well, go out and fix it and do what the hell you do. Changing a coach for the umpteenth time, so be it.
Yeah, I honestly, in my speculation, I think Lavi's done. And this happens a lot in the NHL where I think maybe this is more on the general manager and maybe it's a bunch of different factors that have weighed into this tough season for the New York Rangers. But if you look at the track record of Peter Laviolette, it's very similar to like a John Tortorella, where he's got a couple years where he's really, really good, makes the playoffs, takes his team considerably far, and then just hits a wall. And I don't know if they stop listening to him. It's time for a refresh or a change. And I think that wall has been hit here for the New York Rangers. And I can't help but think, because it's the Rangers, everything you just mentioned with Dolan, imagine Mitch Marner gets to July 1. Just my opinion. I think the Rangers are a team that would find a way to create that cap flexibility for a Mitch Marner. Would you agree with that?
I wouldn't be shocked. Again, with that owner, I would be 0% shocked. Go give him $15 million a year, trade Kreider, trade this guy. Like, there's going to be a laundry list of things that Drury and the staff are going to have to do if they enter the Marner sweepstakes. But if they do, it's primarily because the owner wants it. And we've seen over history the Rangers in general just taking some big ass swings. And I mean, I wouldn't be shocked. I'd be maybe a little surprised given where they're at right now. But because of the mandate from Jimmy Dolan and where this team needs to get back to, that definitely, Nick, that wouldn't surprise me at all.
You saw the tweet earlier on, Dave. The Atlantic Division is just a jumble, and I think it's great because for years the Metro was significantly stronger, I thought, overall than the Atlantic, and now the tables have turned where you have the Leafs at 98, Tampa 96, Florida 92, the Ottawa Senators on their heels at 90, the Montreal Canadiens at 85. I think it's a breath of fresh air for the division, but it just shows you how difficult it is to gain ground on anybody in this division. Even look considerably at the Maple Leafs, 8-1-1 in the last 10 games. How much ground have they built on the teams around them? Not much in terms of significant space, but it just shows you this division is a juggernaut right now, Dave. It's only getting stronger too, I think.
It is. Yeah, exactly. Detroit's going to be better next season. They're going to be making some off-season moves. The Habs are going to be even better than they are this season because they've got a ton of cap space and a ton of flexibility, and they want to be aggressive this summer. Ottawa is going to continue to be there. Florida's not going away anytime soon. Neither is Tampa. Boston's got a lot of work to do, so we'll figure out. They're probably at the bottom of the heap right now. And Buffalo's decided now that their season is over to start winning. So we'll see what kind of changes they make in the summer too. But this, like every team in this division, wants to be aggressive and in the summer for next season, so that they can be that much more competitive for next season. You can only 5 teams can make the playoffs in a division max. So it's going to be that, like, next season's going to be a dogfight, I think, based on what my anticipation is of the changes some of these other teams like Detroit and like the additions of the Habs are going to make. But it's also for the teams that are at the top, like Toronto, Tampa, Florida. It's also a testament to how good their seasons have been in the grand scheme of it because of how freaking competitive this division is.
Man, the intrigue for me is, like, you look at the offseason and normally you point to free agency and you're like, okay, there's a variety of different combos and players available. Even from the Maple Leafs perspective, you can throw this conversation out there because there's so many polarizing free agents attached to this team, namely John Tavares and Mitch Marner. But hypothetically, you let those guys go, who are you replacing with? Because half the league's going to be after the Sam Bennett's, the Ekblads of the world, the Ehlers of the world. Like, it's not as deep of a free agency pool this year, is it?
No, not anymore, because guys keep signing and locking into their extensions. Rantanen got his deal. Chychrun got his deal. Bennett seemed to have been making progress around the deadline, and then things have quieted down, at least from our side. So, I mean, maybe there's something there. Is it going to follow the Reinhart pattern from last season? They win the cup, they get him locked in. Maybe that happens there, but you've got Brock Nelson will be available as a UFA. You've got Brock Besser, who will also be available as a UFA. You've got a lot of there will be quality options, but not superstar level options. Second line, top six type of options, but not your first line guys outside of Mitch. So if they do lose him or Tavares or look to add, the cupboard isn't bare, but it's not filled with premium products.
In support of Sick Kids, Maxentius Decimus, thank you so much for the super chat. Any team giving Marner 15 times 8 is tanking their future, which is fair. I mean, but at last report, and you were obviously dialed in on this situation, I think a fair number in terms of what maybe we're all hearing is around 14, right?
If he hits the open market, yeah. And July 1, max is 7 years. He's not getting 15 million in Toronto over 8, but you hit July 1, even with Toronto, it's only 7 years. That's the cutoff. If he wants 8 years at obviously less money here in Toronto, or if they trade his rights or whatnot, I mean, that's it. So after that, it's 7 years. But it sounds like if he hits July 1, it's going to hover around 14 million. And with extra money to play with the salary cap going up, would it surprise me if a GM gets an itchy trigger finger and decides to dish out more? Nope, I wouldn't be shocked. I mean, these guys they all complain afterwards that they spent too much money, but they're the ones dishing it out. Yeah. So it's not going to surprise me if somebody does that. I'm all for the players. Go get your bank, get your bag, collect as much as you can. It's not your fault they're willing to give you that kind of cash. But we'll see what these guys end up doing if he hits the open market. I mean, there's going to be a shit ton of teams. Like, you're looking at 25 teams that are going to be seriously invested in trying to sign him.
It's going to be bedlam for sure, but certainly looking forward to the next couple months here from the Maple Leafs perspective. I like where there's teams at, so we're going to move forward here on this show and get set to tee this one up from Florida. At the Leafs Nation 401 on YouTube. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Leafs Morning Take wherever you find your podcast. Make sure to leave us a 5-star review, and don't forget to visit theleafsnation.com. Should add as well. Make sure you check out tonight's edition of the Leafs Nation After Dark with Zach Phillips. Dave, as you know, you guessed it on there last weekend. I will be a guest on the Leafs Nation After Dark tonight, and I actually had originally scheduled this game because I was really, really attached to this matchup. But because everything happening in the standings, which we're about to talk about, I just don't know how I feel about this game in general. Producer Vic and I were talking about before the podcast, and I'm like, I don't know if I want them to win or lose. Just play well, I guess.
I mean, look, you collect the points, get the W, solidify first. Gives you a little extra confidence going into the first round. You may end up playing Florida. You win tonight and Ottawa keeps rolling, the chances have increased that you're going to end up playing Florida in the first round. So we'll see. It looks like either Florida or Ottawa. So pick your poison. You got the defending champs, or you got a team that's red hot. Either way, it's going to be a tough task. So just go out there, focus on it, similar to last week when they played. Yeah, the Panthers were on a back-to-back, and yeah, Barkov didn't end up playing. But who gives a shit? Take advantage of that. Get the points. Build up on your confidence going into that first round. You'll probably have Max Pacioretty as added reinforcements in game one for some extra secondary offense. Go for it. That should be the mindset going into this thing.
Can only control what you can control. This opening segment is brought to you by our friends over at Greta Bar. Whether it's before, during, or after the game, it's the place to be on King Street West. Awesome street food and wicked arcade games. 590 King Street West. Greta Bar. Let the games begin. So the bullshit is on here in the Tankathon. Luke Fox, by the way, covering the team down in Sunrise, says Barkov, Forsling, Reinhart all back in, which is great news. Bennett remains out, and Paul Maurice saying Bennett will rest of the regular season, will play game one of the playoffs for the Florida Panthers. How about that, Dave? Very timely.
There you go. See, again, Florida doesn't give a shit about their version of time management. They don't care. They're getting Barkov back, like you said. They're getting, Reinhart's going to play, Forsling's in. You pretty much have a full roster minus a couple pieces now. So whatever. If it means Bennett's a little banged up and he needs the extra, what are we at, 11 days until the start of the playoffs? Cool. Go for it. And from Toronto's side of things, now you've got Barkov to worry about. Reinhart played last game. Um, you try to focus in and zero in on some of Barkov's tendencies so you could prep for a potential first round matchup. So I mean that this might work into Toronto's benefit to a certain extent.
So Bennett done for the regular season. That's the latest here on Leafs Morning Take. And do not forget that name, Sam Bennett. We just talked about July 1. David Kampf, Jake McCabe out for the Toronto Maple Leafs, did not make this road trip. You talk about being on fire. Well, I'll flip the script on you. The Toronto Maple Leafs are on fire, dude. They've won 4 in a row, 8 of the last 10. Of note as well, the last 6 games of the season, 4 of them taking place away from Scotiabank Arena. But all in all, I think this team has to be feeling pretty good about themselves right now.
They better be. I mean, this group, the way that they're playing, you have to, and you have to go into it against this team with into the playoffs with that level of confidence. You keep that play going, you keep your depth going. We've seen some great things and great success so far, especially in the last little bit. Bobby McMahon's been playing great. You're seeing Domi playing a lot better. The way that he's rolling, that third line that they've compiled right now, even though they're intertwining, some of the guys, things have been working out. So, keep that confidence, keep the pressure going, apply more of it, try to get some additional offense. You'd love to see a little bit more out of Austin Matthews right now. Personally, Willie Nylander has been great. Tavares, that second line has been great. Mitch has been doing some decent things, some good things lately. Austin, you want to see a little bit more of, and maybe get a little extra pep in his step going into the playoffs. But this team, well-rounded, and like I said, the likelihood that Pacioretty is playing game 1 gives you a little extra to work with in your bottom 6.
Yeah, I said this on yesterday's show, the longest back spasm of all time, Max Pacioretty, and maybe he's good enough to go for game 1 here of the Stanley Cup playoffs. I think we'll add a bit of a different dimension to the bottom 6. And the word we're looking for is identity too, which I think they've started to carve out a bit. I've liked more and more that newfound third line. Like, it's funny, all the conversation around the deadline. Scott Laughton's going to be a center, and it's Domi pretty much playing center, and they got Holmberg as 4C with David Kampf out of the lineup. I know there's still 6 games yet to go, but I think you're still in search of that identity, and I think we're on the way, the pathway to finding that identity in time for game 1. Like, I don't know where Pacioretty would fit into the puzzle here, but certainly a really good option to look at moving forward too.
I'd probably look at him alongside Domi and Laughton. But I mean, it's going to depend on where they want to align guys. Can Laughton move over to the right side, or does he go center and Max goes to the right, and Pacioretty on the left? People forget that Laughton played most of the season on the wing in Philadelphia. So to slot him back at center, to get adjusted to a new system, it's taken him a little bit longer to get fully acclimated to everything. But there was also a shit ton of pressure that was put on him coming in. And so I get it. You want some time, but I think you're probably, that my guess would be third line duties. I don't think you want it. Originally, I thought maybe, he takes McMahon's slot on that second line, but with how well he's played and gelled with Nylander and JT, you probably want to keep him in the bottom 6. So you probably throw him on the third. And then who's the odd man out, Nick? Is it going to be Kampf, I guess, to start the season? To start the playoffs, you keep Pontus in the middle, or what do you think?
Yeah, that's what my thinking is. I think that's my fascination. Like, Nick Robertson's a guy I could easily see not playing game 1, but I think, and you could speak to this, I mean, you cover the playoffs a lot every year, whether it's the conference finals, the cup finals, and oftentimes I think what honestly puts a team over the top is like the coaching. Like, weirdly enough, because we don't really talk about coaching, but lineup changes, right? And Nick Robertson, this is becoming a pretty big story. Every time he becomes healthy scratch, he comes back in the lineup and produces. And quite frankly, you're looking for that boost. And that's why, again, I don't put much stock in who starts game 1 of the playoffs in between the pipes, who plays, who's in, who's out of the lineup. I think it's all about getting that big time goal. And I think Pacioretty could be a factor. I think Holmberg can be a factor. We hope David Kampf could be a factor. Nick Robertson, guys like that, weirdly enough, could help put this team over the top here.
Yeah, and you've got a guy behind the bench in Craig Berube who's gone through that process before and knows how to make those types of adjustments. As important as it is for the team to play well over these next 5-6 games, it's also going to be from a coaching side of things. You're taking mental notes. You're taking some extra. You're paying, a little extra attention to the situational matchups that you're going to apply here. Now tonight it's Florida, so you've got a bit of a bonus here in terms of a potential opponent for round one, so you can kind of juggle things and test things out, kind of like a feeling out process a little bit. But as over the next 5 games after that, situationally, how are we going to play? We may see a third line get more duties in certain matchups, more minutes than they normally would get throughout the regular season, because you're also prepping for the playoffs. So you're right. The coaching will play a significant factor here. Obviously, if it's Florida, well, they got a hell of a good guy in Paul Maurice, who's got a hell of a lot of experience. But you've got a cup winner there, and you've got a cup winner in Craig Berube with St. Louis pulling things off from that side of things. In Ottawa, Travis Green, who's done tremendous work with the Sens, and has readjusted, their system and overhauled, I should say, their system, but hasn't been to the final. To the final stretch compared to Berube. So you're going to try to utilize whatever advantages you can. And sometimes, as you said, coaching plays a hell of a factor.
You know what I'm really jacked about come the Stanley Cup playoffs is the gamesmanship. I often felt like Sheldon Keefe got in his own head, and I wonder the PR battle. Craig Berube, I think it's already started the last couple weeks, just in terms of his verbiage, what he says in the media. Like I'm actually jacked for off the ice, what Berube says after a loss or a disappointing play. That's going to excite me. I won't lie.
Yeah, I mean, and it's also mind games, right? You're also playing certain things and saying certain things to kind of screw up the other team, and to get them to overthink. Well, what the fuck did he mean? Well, what did he mean by that? And so, sorry.
You can swear, Dave. Don't worry.
I know. I always whatever. So now I'm overthinking. But these guys, like, same situation. You're gonna are you overthinking? Or what did he say? Are you gonna take it with a grain of salt? Is this going to be applied to the next game? Like the head games in all of this, it's you're right. Gamesmanship at its finest, and not just from the coaching staff, some of the players too. You got some guys. Now that's the one thing with Florida. They've got a couple guys or a few guys on that team, especially an extra guy now with Brad Marchand, along with Tkachuk, along with Bennett, and some of the other guys. They are fantastic at chirping and their gamesmanship on and off the ice. So that'll also play a bit of a role here in any series.
Oh, bottom line, they play the Florida Panthers in the first round. It'll take Brad Marchand about 10 seconds to say this is the best Maple Leafs roster he's ever seen in his time as an NHLer, dude. That's par for the course. It's given. Yeah. You're so right. And I think the Maple Leafs perspective, they're not going to say much. Florida's going to talk. They're going to talk. They won the Cup last year. Paul Maurice knows what he's doing. He's playing marionette with the officials too, all that stuff.
The little benefit to a certain extent that Toronto has is Lorenz, OEL, and Stolarz were all on the team last year. So you've got a little bit of insider trading kind of going on there. And maybe they'll be able to kind of help out the rest of the teammates and say, look, this is what he means. This is what they're going to end up doing. This is what we did last year. Here's how we can ignore it or combat it or whatnot. So a little bit of a little extra ammo, I guess, in Toronto's arsenal, having those 3 guys on the team.
In support of Sick Kids, Maxentius Decimus sends us another super chat. Really appreciate that, Maxentius. Keefe got out-coached every series, hurt to watch. And funny aside, like, jokes aside, I thought Keefe was a really good coach. I think he's done a good job with this Devils team. I don't think they're going to go far. Obviously, no Jack Hughes, no Dougie Hamilton. I think it's going to be a tough first-round matchup against Carolina. But the coaching has been something that I've been curious to see how it looks in the playoffs. We just talked about it, the gamesmanship, but the matchup game, I think, is something that the Leafs have been cooked on the last couple of years. Even if it's Florida, if it's Ottawa, I'm very curious to see how they deploy their bench in general with Craig Berube. But this is why you brought Craig Berube in. We think he's a finisher, right?
Yep. Yeah, well, he is. I mean, like what he ended up doing with St. Louis, and eventually his time came to an end there. But, the new challenge was to join this team and put this team over the hump. And, he's not going to back down from anything. He's a tough SOB. So the same thing with his coaching style and system. He's going to want to have these guys push. I can tell you that the couple days that are going to lead up to the first game that the Leafs end up playing in the first round, a lot of it is going to be message sending to his teammates and what it takes to get over the hump, what it takes to get through this, what it takes to break through that wall and move on to the next round, and so on and so on. So to have a guy that's as passionate as Berube is, and he can not only back it up with obviously having a ring, but also back it up with the way he played when he was in the National Hockey League. That resonates usually pretty well with a lot of guys and a lot of players in this league. And you'd hope from a Leaf side of things that it resonates quite well over the 1 or 2 days that they're going to have a break off after the regular season to the start of the playoffs.
At the Leafs Nation 401 here on YouTube, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. So what kind of game are you expecting? Because we just talked about it. If you're just tuning in, it seems like a good chunk of the Panthers back in, including Sasha Barkov, but they did disclose earlier today that Sam Bennett done for the regular season, but will in fact be ready for game 1 of the playoffs, regardless of the opponent. But do you expect a playoff style? Like, that's the one thing I'm looking at this game, trying to figure out what I'm going to see tonight in Sunrise.
Yeah, it's a message sender because you don't know if you're going to end up playing each other in the first round. So if I'm going out there, I'm trying to send a message. I want the points, obviously. If I'm Toronto, especially, I want the points. I want to finish first. But at the same time, I want to send a bit of a message across. Now, you don't want to overdo it because you don't want to poke the bear, and it ends up being the first round and bites you in the ass. But at the same time, I think this team. You're going to, and from Florida's side of things too, this is for both sides. You're going to want to send a bit of a message to the opponent to say, yeah, okay, well, we'll see you in a week. Try to bring a better game than you played tonight. Like that's kind of going to be what it is. It's gamesmanship. It's mind fucking the other team. It's all of that. And of course, you want the 2 points.
We'll talk about load management in a second, but I know a bunch of the folks in the chat have been asking about Ryan Reeves. He scored over the weekend playing in the AHL. I love the way he's trolling the whole mandatory visor rule in the league, going full Leo Komarov with the visy. But do you honestly think he's a guy who factors into a Maple Leafs playoff lineup? But there's no cap in the playoffs, so I think what's going to happen, maybe you agree, they're going to call him back up. He's going to be around the team. Unlikely to play, though, right?
Agreed. Yeah, I think it's because it's also having him in the room. Like, he's a glue guy, no question. So to have Revo there and back with the group, that's going to be a bit of a motivator, and just to loosen things up as well. But also to lean on him, to lean on him for experience, to lean on him for his, for what he brings to the table, even off the ice. If he does slot in, well, then you kind of know what his role is going to be. It'll be 3 minutes of just, a little bit of ice time and 20 minutes in the box. But I don't think they're going to want to get to that point. But I agree with you. I do think they're going to call him up, when they can, start of the playoffs, just to have him around the guys in the room and even on the ice for practices. That's an important element that often gets overlooked, is just the importance of the guys in the room and off the ice. Bringing what they can on the ice is one thing, but also having the right glue guys in place. That usually pays some solid dividends.
It is the time of year for load management, and it seems like every playoff run we have this convo leading to the playoffs. Last year was about Austin Matthews getting to 69 goals. This year's a bit of a different story. We'll get to Nylander, we'll get to Marner, but from my perspective, they can't even really load manage because of the salary cap. Like, who knows what's going on with Jake McCabe? I'm sure he's banged up, but it's also, I'm sure, hey, Jake, be ready for game 1 of the Stanley Cup playoffs kind of conversation, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But in a perfect world, Chris Tanev's a guy I would like to rest for maybe a couple of these last 6 games. Matthews, if he's willing, who knows what he's been going throughout this season. But if you could sit him for a couple games, I would be wise in the way I deploy these guys, because the salary cap's a factor. I think they have to play, especially now with Kampf and McCabe on the sidelines. But what's your read on that situation?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough. They don't have what do they have? $150,000 worth of
Nothing.
cap space.
Yeah.
You can't juggle the way you want to, the way you would 4 months ago. So you kind of have to roll with what you've got. Now, we've talked about this before. Load management from this side of things means, all right, you're playing 14 minutes a night instead of 18 minutes a night. You're going to kind of shift and give more responsibility to some of your your third pair, to some of your bottom six guys, so they eat up more minutes, so that you can rest guys. At the same time, guys don't necessarily want, unless they're banged up, they don't want to rest. Like if they're banged up to the point where they need a few days off, different story. But if they're battling and they've got some bumps and bruises, they're going to want to play regardless. This isn't the NBA. These guys want to play. So you give them, don't get me started on that. But these guys want to go out there. So again, if you're typically playing 17 to 20 minutes or 18 to 20 minutes a night, well, you can reduce that by 3 minutes, and that's kind of NHL version of load management. Again, barring any substantial injury.
Because I think a lot of people echo the sentiments of Project Pat, great handle in the chat. Call up the Marlies guys and have patience with them. I don't think they can do that. Like, for example, Florida can, because of the cap space they've accrued, obviously, with like a Matthew. Is Matthew Tkachuk an LTIR? He is, right? Yeah. So like that's why, from the Maple Leafs perspective, you can't do that. You can't call up half the AHL roster.
No, you can't do any of that shit until it gets to playoffs. When the salary cap is done, the regular season is over. That's when you can call guys up, because, as you said earlier, the cap is gone effectively. So unfortunately for them, they're stuck with what they've got, and it doesn't allow. Again, this is why you get to a situation where the load management is less minutes. So your third and fourth line are going to get a few more, and your third pair is going to get a few more, and some of your other guys are going to play less. Because you just can't do it. Plus, you can't ice a team that's less than 20 players. So, you may have to be in a situation, which is what Philly did with Cam York, even though that was a bit of a battle, and try to send a message to him.
Yeah.
They couldn't sit him, they couldn't scratch him and play 19 players. They had to play, or skaters, they had to play the full 20. So that's why he sat his ass on the bench the whole game. He dressed. You have to dress 20 guys. So if you're lowering their minutes, I mean, that's kind of the only option you have at this stage, unless, and then the tricky part is LTIR, there's a max, or there's a minimum of how long they're going to miss action for. So you almost don't even want to place anybody on LTIR right now if they're going to be ready for game one, because it kind of screws your opportunity to play them at that point.
Craig Terry writes in, please keep hammering the load management of the NBA. What a joke that is. Yeah, that league is in absolute disarray. I don't know if you caught the flop from LeBron James last week. Jay Rosal absolutely hates LeBron James, man, but they're in a bad way are the NBA right now.
I can't stand that shit. And like, guy gets what? He ran into someone's hip? And did he get sacked? Was it his stomach? I couldn't tell, because he was holding here and there and this and that. Like, I can't stand that shit. I mean, look, hell of an athlete, one of the best players of all time, but honestly, I can't fucking stand that guy.
Softer than baby shit, and that's par for the course in the NBA. It just makes me proud to cover a league where, genuinely speaking, guys are pretty damn tough, and they play through a lot. And go ahead.
Sorry, what happened? Like, you watch the NBA in like the 90s, like those teams, they would beat the shit out of each other. Detroit especially, like the Pistons were kicking everybody's ass, and then like everyone was going at it, and then it just became super soft, and all these prima donnas that are there, and what's his name doesn't want to answer questions. Anyway, whatever. Talk for another day.
Yeah, no, I laugh because I grew up obviously in the Kevin Garnett era, man. That was an era to be alive in terms of just not taking shit from the opposition. But this is an NHL show. Different game ourselves when it comes to this league, but we do like this brand, this style, this Maple Leafs team is playing under Craig Berube. But it is a milestone watch type last couple weeks. I mentioned earlier on last year with the 69 tucks for Matthews, but weirdly enough, Nylander needs 6 goals in his final 6 games for 50. Marner, trying to eclipse the 100-point plateau for the first time in his career, needs 6 points in his last 100 games. What's likelier to happen in your opinion? Marner 100 or Nylander 50 goals?
I think Mitch hitting the century mark. I don't know if Willie can pull off 6 goals in as many games. Maybe. And with him, it's probably going to be 2 tonight, 2 in 3 days, 2 in the last game of the season to hit it, because it's always in little bunches. But I think there's a little more runway for Mitch to grab 6 points. Is it 6, right? I think he's at what, 94? Yeah. So to get 6 more points, probably, and I think he wants it. I think he wants to hit that mark, especially just from a contract side of things.
I'm sure. Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah. Like this is what, seven seasons in a row. He's going to be either hit 90 or was on pace for 90 plus points because of the shortened seasons. He's already hit it now. He wants to hit 100. So I don't know. I think of the two, I think Mitch pulls it off before Willie hits 50.
Yeah, it's one of those checklist things for sure. And I think you look at the player and the body of work for Mitch Marner, it's sort of surprising considering how many points he's put up in his career, how consistent he's been with the point production. He hasn't hit 100, but I do think it happens. I can't discount or discredit Willie Nylander, man. This guy is on a different fucking planet this year. It's been a joy to watch this guy, most consistent player on the Maple Leafs roster this season. I joke about it all the time, exceeding, I think, the value of 11 and a half sheets per season on that contract extension he got
Absolutely.
last January. He has been unbelievable. So I wouldn't be shocked at all if he comes out, maybe gets a 2 or 3 goal game, and he's on pace to get 50 goals. Maybe both happen. That'd be great.
Maybe. Yeah. It's entirely possible with the way that both of these guys play. Like, Mitch will get nothing tonight and he'll get 4 points the next night. Like, and then he'll be, a couple away. And same thing, like I said, with Willie, he'll score 2, he'll have nothing the next game. 2 and 2. It's entirely possible in the way that these guys have played, especially Willie lately. I've been so impressed with the way he's performed over the last little stretch. Maybe this last month, 3 weeks or so. Like he's been friggin' fantastic and creating chances and like not just to finish, but even just creating different opportunities and scoring. And his passing has been elite. His vision has been elite. He's helped out John Tavares. He's helped out McMahon. It's been nice to see, quite frankly, that he's been able to kind of step up here. And he's not putting the team on his back by any stretch because of all the other talent that's there, but he's definitely kind of leading the way in terms of how this team plays and performs offensively.
And I just want to alert producer Vic not to freak out because he's in our chat and he's like, Matthews is 2 goals away from 400. Don't worry. I'm on Hockey DB right now. For some reason, they don't have the statistics for this year. Matthews has 30 goals. So yes, he is in fact 2 goals away from 400, which is tremendous. And the milestone watch is on from his perspective too. And you're right. I think I want Matthews to finish strong. He has shown some flashes the last little while. He scored last game. So I'm going to think positively about him during this stretch.
Yeah, and again, it's good for him. It's good for everybody on any team. Like you want to finish the season strong because you're going into the playoffs, and it's going to allow you to kind of have that little extra boost of confidence. And if you can, if you hit that milestone, you eclipse or at least finish off with 2 more, and you're at 400. Yeah, another boost of confidence. Personal accolades. Look, and everybody wants the cup, right? Everybody wants the chance to go for the cup. They'll trade in that season or this performance or that award to get the Stanley Cup and whatnot. But later on in your career, in your life, when your career is done, you look back and you go, man, shit, I scored 400, 500, 600, 700 goals in the National Hockey League. I did this, I did that. Like that's stuff that you ask guys that have retired. It's stuff that down the road they look back on with full appreciation. But right now, just the competitive juices, everybody wants the cup. But and which obviously that's the goal. I don't blame him. But yeah, the 100-point season, the 50-goal seasons, the 400 career goals, like that's all cool shit that should be celebrated a little bit more. But it's always reserved for later.
At the Leafs Nation 401, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button as you get set for the 4th and final matchup here with the Florida Panthers this season. The Leafs, I believe, on the ice right now for the morning skate. Looks like Joseph Woll is going to start this game and not Anthony Stolarz. And that intrigues me just because of the level of dominance. If you look at Joseph Woll in his career against the Tampa Bay Lightning, but I got no issue with it, man. They got to get Woll back in there. We haven't seen him in a while. I think it was a bit of a stunner to see Stolarz go back and play that Columbus game, but obviously the right call on that one with the shutout. So it looks like Joseph Woll is going to start this game against Florida.
Yeah, give him a test. Give him a test, see how he performs. And, like Berube said, what was it, last week, he doesn't envision platooning these guys come playoff time. You're going to roll with the hotter hand. So this is an opportunity for Woll to step up a little bit in, let's call it a big game. For him, it will be. Because, with all the different ramifications, but for him specifically, you want to have a good game, you want to perform well, and you want to give your coaching staff something to think about come game 1 of the first round. Probably right now, I think Stolarz is the guy. But you want to make the argument that, hey, you're just as capable of handling those number 1 duties.
Yeah, I was gonna say I think there's nothing wrong with demonstrating confidence in both your guys. Like I know a lot of people very, very high on Anthony Stolarz right now. He has had a brilliant first season here with the Toronto Maple Leafs, but let's not
Yeah.
discredit the job that Joseph Wall has done and evolved and progressed. And knock on wood, a story that's not really being talked about enough is his availability. Dude, he's in there. He's been there, right? I mean, what's been the
Yeah.
knock on Joseph Wall in recent seasons? Always hurt. I have to credit the guy. He has stuck around this season. He has played. He was big when this team was out without Anthony Stolarz, and I think you got to give credit where it's due. He's been available. He's been in that crease. And you can't forget, I have obviously disappointing memory of Game 7 last year. He can't go, but Joseph Woll in the playoffs is a sight to behold, and it actually excites me, man.
Yeah, I mean, look, he's the guy of the future. We all know it. That Stolarz another season, 2 seasons, however long he ends up staying after his contract wraps. But Wall is supposed to be the guy, so doesn't mean he has to be the guy right now. But because of Stolarz, it's allowed you to give him the breaks that he needs because you're fully confident in the other guy that can go in net. So when you have Wall playing at a particular level consistently, you want to see if can he step up a little bit more, especially in a situation like this one. And again, like I said earlier, it gives coaching staff a little extra to think about. And if you have to slot him in after game 1, 2, 3, or 4, whatever it may be in the first round, or whenever he's ready, you know that he's going to be up for it.
So many cases in recent memory, just alone in the last 5 to 6 years, where the guy who starts game 1 of the playoffs, not necessarily the guy who brings his team far. Perfect example, of course, with everything happening in Washington was the Capitals, where
Yep.
Philip Grubauer was a starter, and it's Braden Holtby who brings that team to a Stanley Cup. So I wouldn't get so attached to the game 1 starter. I think it's obviously a pretty decent story. It will be in this market, and I think it's going to be Anthony Stolarz. But I've been on the record for a while now and saying I think we're gonna see both guys. Like that's a big part of the Stanley Cup playoffs is how you respond to scrutiny and adversity. It's going to happen at some point, whether it's in the next couple of weeks before the playoffs or into the playoffs. It's certainly going to happen, and the response is everything for me.
Yeah, well, that's exactly it. Like you can sit, you can get scratched, you can play less minutes because of whatever, but it's how you respond afterwards in the next game. Can you step up? Can you live up to the task? Can you live up to the challenge? And I mean, shit, we know in the playoffs, it's challenge after challenge after challenge, period after period. So if you can't, cool. Now the coaching staff knows they can't trust you, and they're going to go to somebody else. But I think so far this season, a lot of guys on this team have shown everybody that they are trustworthy and they can execute again situationally based on guy per guy. But the Leafs have some pretty good options here, and Brad Marchand may end up being right. This is the best Leaf group in a long time, so we'll see if they can keep their heads in check.
Oh, he says that every year. Don't worry. Same Leafs lines
Yeah.
and D pairs that they shut out Columbus with on Saturday. So not much of a shocker there, aside from the fact that it looks like it's going to be Joseph Wall and not Anthony Stolarz going in this, I guess, pivotal game against the Florida Panthers. The other thing I'll be monitoring tonight is special teams. The Panthers have had their way with the Maple Leafs on the power play. They're 5 for 10. That's 50% on the year. And we talk about the playoffs. We're going to talk almost ad nauseum about special teams and the power play and just get everything well-oiled and good to go for the Stanley Cup playoffs. But obviously going to be a big factor, specifically with this Maple Leafs team, where every year it's offensively, they dry up, whether it's on the power play or 5-on-5 for that matter.
Yeah, well, I mean, we know how pivotal it is because it's not supposed to happen. You're supposed to be consistently 5-on-5. You get penalties, you put your team in a bad position. That nobody wants to do that. So, from their side of things, you want to work on the PK a little bit more. You want to work on the man advantage a little bit more. And thankfully, from Toronto's side of things, that the power play has been better in the second half of the season compared to the dog shit that it was in the first half of the season.
True.
It took a while for everybody to get going. So, hopefully for their sake, it translates back into postseason. But look, everything is key. Everything is important come playoff time. You can't take your foot off the gas at all, or else the other team's going to burn you. And any opponent that you're going to have, Florida, Tampa, Ottawa, I mean, you've got Florida and Tampa have been the last 5 Stanley Cup finals, and you've got Ottawa that's rolling right now. It's going to be a tough test regardless of who you play. So you got to keep your shit together and yourself in check if you want to, do any damage. So it doesn't matter who the opponent is going to be. You just have to make sure your game is well-rounded, and that includes the special teams and making sure that it's on point.
Breaking news coming in from Bet365, where every nail-biting overtime win is a barn burner. Every face-off, hat-trick, power play, shot on goal, penalty shot, and every suspenseful minute in between is amazing. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365, an official partner of the NHL. Download the Bet365 app and use the code NATION, NATION, to get in the game. Must be 19 or older, Ontario only. Please play responsibly. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem, visit connexontario.ca. Let's look at some bets for this game. Leafs visiting the Florida Panthers. Give me a Willie Nylander ATG. I think he's going to sniff around 50. He's got that feel, and I love the way this guy's playing right now.
Yeah, that was going to be one of mine as well. Anytime goal from Willie tonight in this one, because he's been stepping up against these teams. He did it last game, last week against them at home, and we've seen from him in bigger moments lately. He's been the one that kind of steps up as part of it. So I'm liking that one as well.
Maybe the long shot bet, Steven Lorentz. Love the revenge factor. Maybe he scores against his former team. Maybe tap in Oliver Ekman-Larsson as well against the Panthers. And I'm just very curious to see how the Maple Leafs look in this game. They beat Florida a week ago, how the Panthers respond, getting Sasha Barkov in that lineup. The matchup game, too, is big, whether this is a first-round preview or it's not. Barkov didn't play last week, which means baby Barkov not playing 1C in this game. Not to make too much of that story, but Anton Lundell was the 1C last week. And if you recall, the Matthews line had their way with the Florida Panthers in the third period. But Barkov's a bit of a better and different player, I would say, than Anton Lundell.
Yeah, bigger guy too. So like that, yeah. the big body factors in here. Giving Florida a little extra and a different element to kind of, not just from the first line, but also to spread out the rest of the lineup. Yeah, I mean, look, tough task. And again, you're going to be taking mental notes. The players are, the coaching staff definitely will be, the guys up top, video guys, they're going to be taking mental notes of who they're playing and how they're matching up against each other. And that's going to help prep them for the playoffs. Sometimes these games at the end of the season against rivals are tough, but they're also beneficial from an educational perspective.
Cheese Wizard, great handle, writes in, Robertson anytime goal pays more with a wink, and can't thank Zach Phillips enough. Minwoo Lee Masters winner, 55-1. Can't forget it is Masters week, so we're all caught up in the world of golf and also the NHL. Dave, excellent job today, and we'll talk soon, okay?
You got it. See you.
Should mention as well, special guest coming up on tomorrow's show from Team USA, former NHLer, absolute stud, former goalie for the Florida Panthers, among other squads. John Van Beesbrook is going to drop by Leafs Morning Take tomorrow. We're going to get his perspective on Toronto's All-American crease, this Leafs Panthers potential first-round matchup. So looking forward to that. Thank you to everybody in the chat at the Leafs Nation 401. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Don't forget, I'll be guesting on the Leafs Nation After Dark tonight following the Leafs and Panthers game with Zach Phillips. So make sure you check that out. Leafs Morning Take, wherever you find your podcast. Make sure to leave us a 5-star review. And don't forget to visit theleafsnation.com. Thank you to producer Vic. For Dave Pagnotta, I'm Nick Alberga. Enjoy the game, and we'll talk tomorrow. Take care, everybody. Make sure to check out more of our content right here on the Leafs Nation YouTube page. We got long-form interviews. We got clips. We got epic rants by Jay Rosa. We simply have it all. And don't forget, you can find out much more at theleafsnation.com. Thanks so much for watching.